Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everyone? It's Geoff, Mosher, Adam, Caplan, and as promised, we are about to start our two-part series. This will be part one of the entire Philadelphia Eagles roster review. We'll go through positions within the offense and defense. We'll give you every single name, where they're at. We have a lot of contract info. Obviously, that'll help dictate some of the fates of some players, and we'll just basically we'll start today with offense, go through from quarterback down to offensive line. We'll even get in some kick and punt returner, and then on Thursday morning, our next podcast, we will do the defensive side of the football and evaluate where things stand. Adam Caplan, you ready to get your hat on here and start your personnel man hat on here and go through this offense?
I love doing the show. This is our annual Intel roster, early projection stuff we haven't even talked about before because we're doing an overview.
Right.
And we'll give you an early projection about how many players per position. I know people like debating that. We do too.
Yep.
Some interesting contracts and stuff we weren't aware of until we looked into it. And some intel on players, which we had not talked about before. This is what happens when we have to dig and get information. So this is going to be a fun show.
Definitely. All right. So the 5-part series with Quentin Michael and Jason Avant Q&A is complete. They're all available on our podcast and YouTube platforms. They did an excellent job of breaking down all the offseason moves, the offensive defensive schemes. They took questions, gave answers, broke down individuals. So if you missed any of the episodes, I would recommend that you go back and check them out. They're very, very insightful. They will be back with us closer to the start of the season. We will have some more stuff coming up in the coming weeks with Greg Cosell as we get ready for our NFC East outlook that we do annually. We'll break down not only the Eagles, but the other 3 teams in the division from soup to nuts and everything that goes on. And Greg will be a real help for that. We'll have Greg on for some other stuff as well. And right now on InsideTheBirds.com, Andrew DeCecco is doing his own kind of off-season recap series, going through some of the best acquisitions, some of the guys that he thinks is ready for a breakout. So pretty much every day he's putting out a new story that recaps the last season, really recaps the off season, all the additions, and then kind of gives a future look into what he's expecting for the 2022 season. So a lot of good stuff there. And we're getting some really good feedback, Adam, on our newsletter. I know some people have reached out to us about, I signed up for the newsletter, but every time I go to InsideTheBirds.com, we still get the pop-up for the newsletter. So we're going to work on that. I don't know if we can definitely eliminate it because we do want more people to sign up, and that's our best way of getting it. But perhaps there's a way for those who have already signed up not to see the pop-up. But either way, you hit that X and it just disappears in a second anyway. I know it's an extra step, but the website, we're really, and the newsletter, we're really trying to enhance as we get closer to the season. You know what I was thinking, Adam? In a couple of weeks, we're going to turn this thing over before the start of training camp, and it's going to be considered season 5 of Inside the Birds. We are wrapping up season 4 here. 5. Can you believe it's been 5? It'll be 5 seasons of Inside the Birds since when we started.
We started. I don't know what month it was.
I want to say August of 2018.
Yes. You know how okay, now you bring it up because we met with our friend John Barchard. Mm-hmm. He used to be WIP. I know he's doing some podcasting on his own and so forth. And John was sort of our guide early on. And I was at Vikings camp, and you had said, "Hey, listen, I think," because I contacted you in spring of in like March or April of 18. I said, "Hey, I got this concept.
Right.
What do you think?" And you said yes immediately. I didn't have to sell you on it. It was great. We knew each other a little bit. And we're friendly, and you spoke my language. So I was like, all right, I think this will work. We don't know what it would look like. We've adjusted it, and we listened to all the feedback and said, we want more time, not less time. Because they say in podcasts, it should only be a half an hour. Well, that's what we thought. You told us no. So, right. Okay. You guys got us. You tell us what you want. So anyway, it'll be 5 years in August. And it is, if I didn't know better, I would have said 3. It only seems like 3, but it's been 5. I mean, look, the Eagles made that. It was a year after. In fact, it's so funny you mentioned this because on last Thursday is at Ron Jaworski's charity event at Live Casino.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that was interesting is that remember, Josh Weinfeld brought it up, our business manager. Josh helped us get Corey Clement
Right.
on our first live event, right?
Yes, that was one of our first ones up in Mayfair. That's correct.
Was it 5 years ago?
Yeah, can you believe that? Well, this will be season 5, so it's technically 4 years in the books and about to start season 5.
Sure. And Corey, you know what? And I said this to Josh. I said, you know what? I don't think he's on a team right now. And you know, his dad is a big Eagles fan. I think they're from South Jersey or New Jersey, right? Yes. He would call into the Fanatic and the other sports talk shows. It's funny, but that was a great interview, and it was the amount of traffic we got for that one. He was great. It was unbelievable. And remember, we actually broke news. He told us about his, I guess, knee surgery or something.
That's correct.
Knee cleanup.
Right.
But he was great, and the whole because he was part of Philly Special. Like,
I know, that's amazing.
Phenomenal, nice guy. Wish him well. I hope he could revive his career. It's remarkable how great he was that year. What an undrafted free agent he was that year. And yeah, he in fact, I remember the coaches. We were talking to the coaches then, and they felt like he was so much better than Donnell Pumphrey, and they were right, obviously.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you won't find an undrafted free agent who does this well again.
No,
my good.
It's a shame that season wound up being sort of lightning in a bottle for him, capped by an amazing Super Bowl where I think he had 100 yards receiving, including an amazing touchdown catch. Yeah, and I think he also had a screen that set up the Philly special play. Yeah. So he had a really, and I was really hoping for the kid. It's a great story, local kid, that was going to be the start of a really special career, but he just battled way too many injuries after that. And, he's kind of bouncing around. I don't know if he's with a team right now.
No, he's not. He's unsigned. Yeah.
But he's a great dude. So we wish Corey Clement the best, and he's welcome on back on ITB anytime he wants to come on. All right, let's move forward and talk about this offense that the Eagles have put together. It's as we talked about on a podcast recently in our homework and talking with people around the team, people who observe the team, they feel this is a much better roster than at this time last year. And, most of that is what they did on defense, but certainly some additions to the offense as well. And also, as we start at quarterback, you have starting year two of Jalen Hurts. And this is a really significant season for Jalen Hurts and the franchise, Adam, both for his development and what they can do in the win-loss column, but also from a contract standpoint, because he's in the third year of a 4-year deal. He is, by NFL starting quarterback standards, Adam, very inexpensive for the Philadelphia Eagles, but that's only going to last probably this year.
Well, it strictly depends on how he plays. Right. They don't have to do anything if he doesn't play well. In fact, they wouldn't if he doesn't play well. But on your point, yes, he's in the third year of a 4-year deal. The craziest thing about this is Gardner Minshew is making nearly twice as much as Hurts this season.
That's amazing. That's really amazing.
Hurts 1.3 million, 1.13 million. Minshew, because of the he's on the final year of his deal, there was an escalator in his contract, which puts him up to 2.54 million. So yeah, he's actually more than double of Hurts's contract. Yeah, and they would have to do, if he is the starter in year 4, I'll make a prediction. If they don't get an extension done, which I'm knowing the Eagles, I'm sure they'll try to. But if they didn't, if he's the starter in year 4, I'm sure they'd make it a contract adjustment. You can't disrespect the kid like that.
Oh, totally agree. Absolutely.
You have to. Yeah, they wouldn't do that. They're not the Eagles.
Well, first of all, he probably wouldn't play under that 4 if they
right.
Obviously, probably wouldn't play.
Right. Yeah, obviously, yeah. They would never not adjust it if he's a starter. But you're right. It's a huge year for him. He's had a very good offseason. What we were told by multiple sources is the timing that like his processing, I guess is probably a better way to say it. His ability to go from 1 to 2. He basically was a 1-read quarterback last year. 1.5 maybe. He got it to 2, we were told, in the OTAs, and every once in a while 3, which is really good. And I get it. He's not under pass rush. Untimed. Everything's untimed. Right. Let's see what happens when his pass rushers coming at him. Now, he can't be hit. He's a quarterback in practice. But let's just see what happens with the timing. Let's see what happens when he actually has a pass rush, because If he can duplicate that 7-on-7s, which is what they were doing, to 11-on-11 and 7-on-7s, but 11-on-11s with a pass rush, and whether they might do some 9-on-7, then he's really progressing.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to see the combined camp. Oh, by the way, the Browns, the Eagles have that joint practice in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's in Berea, Ohio. I'm going to try to get to that one, which is about
nice. That'll be
I've
good test for him.
What's that?
That'll be a good test for Jalen.
It will be
defense.
It's prior. Yeah, they've got 2 days of combined practices. Then they play on that Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern in Cleveland. But that'll be a good test for him. I'm just really interested to see if he can make that big jump in his second full season as he's starting quarterback.
Absolutely. By the way, I wonder about, because the NFL always, and the PA, I mean, just like every other sporting organization, they're always kind of trying to figure out the best in betweens. And I'm wondering if the NFL PA is taking note of a guy like Jalen Hurts, or are there any other second round picks right now, or third round picks? Oh, Davis Mills, for example, who's a starter that a lot of people like and felt like he's coming off a good year with the Texans. And again, for Jalen Hurts to make less than his backup this year, there are other sports would not tolerate. This would never happen in Major League Baseball. I mean, but it's hard. It's like you didn't know when you drafted Jalen Hurts that he was going to be in this position, but he is in a position here where he could really get hurt playing, and his career could end, and he was always going to be making less than his backup. The rookie salary cap came into the league in 2000, but that was really for first rounders in 2011, and we're 10 years later. And baseball has the arbitration system. I don't know if football will ever have that, but I do wonder if at some point when the next CBA is negotiated, are they going to try to rectify or find a better middle area for players like Jalen Hurts, who are starting, playing prominent positions, but making less than their backups? It's crazy. That's something a players association wants to not have.
Well, here's what you can do. You could blame Joe Banner, the so-called Banner rule.
Yeah.
Where you cannot adjust contracts for drafted players until after the third year.
Right.
Because remember, it was the Eagles and under Banner, particularly the late 90s and early 2000s, they would try to get guys done who they projected after 2 seasons, because that was the rule. You could extend after 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so many agents would complain. And it's hard to tell a guy who becomes a millionaire, well, it's all relative of what we call millionaire, but at least the first couple of years will be making, if you look at the signing bonus and salaries, they'll make 2 or 3 million, even if you're a late round pick. It's hard to turn down that money to become, it's life-changing money. In fact, Joe talked about that when we asked him about that on Inside the Birds TV.
Yep. He
explained his version of it, and he just smart business. How could you blame him? It's not their fault, but it's to me, it's not fair, as you say, to Hurts, but it is what it is. The players just agree to this. It's not anyone's fault. It's just, this is an agreement between the PA and the players.
I agree with you. I agree. That's why I said I just wonder if this is at all something that the NFLPA is monitoring and will try to, or attempt to try to rectify at the next bargaining table. Who knows? Well, that's a while from now. So let's talk about Minshew, because he's in the last year of his deal. Yeah. He's going to make 2.54, which is amazingly twice as much as Jalen Hurts will make this year.
More than
more than twice. Where do you see? I'm looking at this quarterback group saying, I know how much the Eagles value the backup quarterback, and he's a good one. He came in, won a game last year against the Jets, played fairly well. I don't sense that they're going to be, move to do anything with Gardner other than keep him as the backup and see what happens at the end of the year. If he leaves and signs a big deal, maybe they get that's good for them in the comp pick formula. But unlike Joe Flacco last year, who they were able to flip to get a little bit of compensation, I don't know if they're going to want to do that with Minshew as long as they're competitive. Yeah,
they're not going to get it. Minshew won't yield anything because he's just a backup, and right. It's plus guys you lost and you gain. It's highly unlikely they get anything. But Gardner Minshew is a really quality backup quarterback. That's the way the league sees him.
Mm-hmm.
We talked to John DiFilippo about him. Did we talk? I don't know. I know we talked about him off the air when we had John on.
No, he was, I think on the air, he talked about
Yeah.
how he's has a brilliant mind and sees
Yes.
things before they
Yep.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's important, man, to be able to process like that.
Mm-hmm.
John said the number is crazy. He had like 6 or 7 Pepsi rookies of the week in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty impressive for a 6th-round pick.
Oh, yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. And he's not going to wire his arm strength. He's a scrambler.
Mm-hmm.
He's got just enough arm strength. Like Jet game you brought up. I remember you and I were doing our show, our pre-game show at Live Casino. We watched the game together. Now, let's call it like it is. If you thought Hurts had some easy throws in week 1 against Atlanta, I mean, these were pitch and catch that got her. But hey, you got to make the throws.
Sure.
And he was accurate. He's a very accurate quarterback. The ball flows. He doesn't have a lot of juice on it, but he's a perfect backup quarterback. This is a guy you want. We know he'd like to start. He's not going to start here. He knows that, but he's in it. This is a kind of guy you like as your backup because he helps your room. He's very competitive in the room. Coaches like that, and he's good. He's a good player.
Yeah, definitely. So he'll probably be the backup all year long, unless something crazy, unless he has to be a starter for whatever reason. But I see him with the Eagles finishing out the year, and then of course battling to see if either can get a spot on the 53 would be the incumbent Reed Sinnett on the last year of his deal versus Carson Strong, the headline making rookie free agent quarterback from Nevada with a really strong arm. I'll say the lack of any buzz around Carson. I thought maybe I would hear some things from, when we did our OTA, recap and notebook, and you tried to talk to people and said, I don't know how many reps this guy actually got in any of the practices at him, because the ones we were at, he didn't.
No, as I understand it from our sourcing on this, when you're a 3rd string quarterback or you compete for that, you get reps, but you're not getting with starters. You're getting them later and in other drills. So he definitely got work, but you're right. You're working with deep backups. And in fact, I know coaches, when I've talked to coaches over the years, it's so hard to evaluate UDFA rookie or like a 7th-round pick at a quarterback because they're working with a lot of players who will not be on the football team. And so how do you get timing down with guys you're not going to work with again, who shouldn't even be there anyway? They're either trial players or they're undrafted guys. In fact, the practice we were at, you and I were watching the individual drills. The only guy that's of the group that worked out, we know is definitely going to be the team is Zach Pascal. The other guys probably won't even be on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the problem that you have. If you're Carson Strong and Reed Sinnett, you're working with guys who are either not going to be on the team or maybe they'll be on the practice squad with you. Right. So it's harder to, it's just not easy to develop like that. Now we'll see what they get in training camp. But the big thing in Carson Strong is they gave him a good guarantee in his contract. Doesn't mean he'll make the team because the way the rookie contracts got redone in the 20 CBA is you get paid the guarantees in the practice squad. If you get cut, you're going to make whatever your guarantee is. You're still going to make it this year, whether you're cut or not, whether you're with another team, you still have to make it. So that won't keep him on the team, but what'll keep him on the team is if he looks good in training camp, if he's over the knee issue, because the word will get out, the reporters will see it, everything gets out anyway with this stuff when the guys look good. My sense is they would not cut him because Minshew's on the final year of his deal, and the only way you get in the practice squad is cut him, is waive him. If the guy looks good, and this kid is, as you and I know, he's got a big arm. He didn't look good at the Senior Bowl because his knee wasn't right. But if he's healthy, this kid's going to be on the team if he looks the part.
Yeah, that's the big thing for me that I'll be looking for. I want to see if he can move around even just a little bit, because you can't play this game if you can't move around a little bit, if you're physically unable to move. I'm not saying he's got to be a scrambler. I'm not saying he has to have fantastic pocket navigation. I'm just saying I need to see some signs that he, that, like you said, just mentioned with the knee, that he is not favoring it, not limping, that he can put his plant leg into a throw and release and showcase that arm strength. And well, unfortunately, we couldn't see that during OTA. So that'll be like the first thing I'll be looking at training camp before I even start to see his knowledge of the offense or his timing with receivers, because that's really the biggest step for him, just being fully healthy and being able to move.
one more thing before we get to running back. At the Senior Bowl, and this was a problem. I know it was raining, and I don't want to make excuses on that end, but of all the quarterbacks I watched there, he had the worst base. He could not, because that knee and that big brace he had, he didn't look right. He just didn't look right. And I'm like, well, I still thought he'd get drafted. I'm like, how could this guy not get drafted? He's got a lot of ability.
Well, there you go.
But clearly, 32 teams, including the Eagles, because they didn't draft him, had a really issue with that knee. Because typically the way it works is with this, when you don't get drafted because of a knee issue or medical issue, they think you're going to have a short career. The kid, Justin Ross, who's the kid out of Clemson, the receiver, who didn't get drafted, he had a neck issue. Right. His issue was neck, and he couldn't get cleared. And that typically means you're not going to have a long career. Doesn't mean you won't, but clubs have an issue with how long you can play. And the docs couldn't clear him, but the Eagles docs cleared him. Carson Strong, getting back to him in that knee to be able to play. And I don't know what the language is on his contract, but we know they gave him a decent guarantee, and we'll see what happens.
There you go. Big note here as we move on is that the Eagles are trying to be much more competitive this year and win as many games and go as far as possible with a quarterback group that will cost them this year probably less than $5 million in total, which is amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's
in the salary
crazy.
cap quarterback era.
I love how you bring that up. So now you're going to make me look this up. You just sparked something in me. So that'll be my project for the next couple of weeks. Look at the 31 other teams and see what they're paying to their quarterback group. The Eagles could be the lowest paid quarterbacks as a group in the league. It could be.
Oh yeah, definitely. Absolutely. All right, let's go on to running backs. Miles Sanders in the last year of his rookie deal. You know, Adam, it's been such a kind of up and down. I thought he had a really good rookie year. I mean, burst onto the scene, catching the ball downfield, those games against Detroit and Minnesota. Then he kind of, went through a lull, and he came back at the end of the year. And then year two was a weird year for him because he had all these explosive runs. I think he had led the league in runs of over 60 yards or something like that. But he also had the injuries that he deal with. And then of course, last year, kind of the same, not as explosive, but still he has not yet been able to carve out that role as the 3-down back. And I don't know if you remember this, but going into the draft, the Miles Sanders draft, coming out of that year that they had in 2017, we talked about how badly this team needed a 3-down running back, and they needed a guy like Miles Sanders. And they've had him, but they just have not been able to really, or maybe it's him or them or together, have not been able to turn him into that guy yet.
When he was drafted in 2019, because I remember you talking about this being Penn State guy, he was not really, it wasn't like he couldn't catch the ball, but he just wasn't asked to do it at Penn State. And you and I were blown away. He made some great, remember the deep ball against Minnesota inside and down there. And he had some really good catches. He explodes out of the backfield. Now the hands were inconsistent. And then you throw in the injuries. And then how in the heck did he not score a touchdown last season? That's embarrassing. In fact, what shocked us is that Gainwell became the goal line back. We're like, this is not supposed to happen. What is going on here?
Right. So, but he had a hot, it's not like he had a bad, like as from carrying the ball, he had a pretty good yards per carry average last year. I think it was over 5, if I'm not mistaken.
We're still explosive. That's not the issue. The issue is consistency, hands, durability, which is why they clearly have not extended his contract, because he hasn't earned it. Why would you extend his contract? Barring a miracle, they're not going to extend him if they ever do after the season. Right. You could do it. You could do what they've done before, where the guy's kicking ass. Like if he's kicking ass by Thanksgiving, where they go, wow, he finally put it together. We draft him the second round. He's our guy. They could start getting the ball rolling with the agent. Now he changed agents, by the way, a couple of years ago, but they could roll it with his agent, see where they could go here. But you got to be careful with this guy. He's talented, but he's just not shown any consistency where you go, this is our guy for 5 or 6 years. He just has not done that.
I'm really fascinated to see what the Eagles' mindset is with him this year. It's his last year, so let's give him the ball as long as he's healthy as much as possible and try to get as much out of him and then deal with it in him and the contract in the future in the offseason? Or is it start to kind of phase him out and get Kenny Gainwell more? I mean, you paid Boston Scott more than I thought you would pay on 1.7. Get him in there more. I don't know what they're going to do. I think it's going to be a pretty fascinating look into their philosophy.
Well, they're not going to run as much, barring a shock. Everyone knows they don't want to be a running team, but they did to help the quarterback. That was good coaching. Well, that's not going to work with this organization, as we know.
Right.
So I would expect Hurts's, it was 34.5 for the first 6 games last year. That was obviously way too high. I would expect somewhere in the low 30s in terms of pass attempts. Now, are they going to run it as a total group 25 times a game, 35 times a game? That's hard to project.
Right.
But Gainwell's the guy. We said it since he was drafted. We knew this for a fact. This coaching staff loved Gainwell, particularly the head coach.
Right.
He was not around when Sanders was drafted. I'm not saying Gainwell's going to take Sanders' job. He's not going to. And you mentioned Boston Scott, who they gave a nice contract, a 1-year, 1.75 and 1.1 fully guaranteed signing, which means not only will he be on the team, he needs to have a role. But the question, we broached this a little bit in the previous show, and now we could move it forward here. They were a 2 running back rotation plus Hurts as part of the run game. Because they're going to pass it more, what does that mean for this rotation?
Right.
Because you gave Scott this money, Gainwell they love, and Sanders is their starter, their lead back. What does that mean for the rotation? Are they going to go to a 2 running back rotation or 3?
Right. Well, that's a great question. I don't know. And of course, injuries will, as you mentioned, will factor in and sort of answer the question. But for week 1, if everyone's healthy, it'll be really, really interesting to see how this running game is. If it's a committee or if it's still a 1 and a 1A or a 1 and a 2, and then maybe you sprinkle it. Well, actually, they did not sprinkle the third guy in much last year, if at all.
No,
it was really a 2-person running game. So
they only did. In fact, Boston Scott didn't. I don't think he had a touch from scrimmage until the second half of the season.
Right, and we know that they didn't call up Jordan Howard until like the middle of the year too. So really, it would be fascinating. And once again, just like quarterback, running back, which is a premier position in the league. Maybe it doesn't matter how good or bad you are as far as usage, right? You run the ball, at least most teams, somewhere in the 20 to 25 time range, no matter what. This is another position group that the Eagles are probably committed less than $6 million total to, right?
Oh, yeah. Sanders is, as we said on the last year's rookie deal, he's making under 1.3 million in salary.
Right.
Now, again, we're only looking at salaries. He got a signing bonus, but that's not part of his salary.
Right.
Boston Scott, we just gave you. Kenny Gainwell is making $825,000. Jason Huntley, he was almost certain to not be on the football team in September. Remember, they cut him, put him in the practice squad, and they gave him 25 grand fully guaranteed at signing. It was a signing bonus when he re-signed to a future contract in January. So you're right. No, well under 6 million. No, good point. Now, they do have the option, and you talked about the last show, but the roster tango, they could bring back Jordan Howard whenever they want, whether it's the start of training camp, middle, and whatever they want to do. But because of the practice squad, it's so beautiful, this rule where veterans could be on it. It could even be David Johnson. I know we had some questions about David Johnson, who's significantly older than Jordan Howard, who's very versatile, but he's clearly at the end of the line here at 31 years old, 31 years old. Whatever big back they want, guy with size who can catch the ball or at least can run inside and finish it off or be a closer if you need him to. That guy could be, if they want to sign him, and then they could just cut him and put him on the practice squad and start playing the roster tango. That's the beauty of this practice squad.
It definitely is. All right, we will move on from running backs. We'll get into wide receivers. First, we want to tell you about our new partners. It's one we've been wanting to tell you about for a long time now. It's Freestone Farms CBD. It's our favorite CBD brand because they farm it themselves with all organic inputs, and they offer you some education on what they grow and how they grow it to make the best quality products on the market. We've tried a lot of different brands, but honestly, Freestone Farms' CBD has been amazing. We personally like to use it after workouts, kind of helps with that regular post-workout feel. And we like to use it before bed because we've all been sleeping better at night. So what's more exciting is our friends at Freestone Farms just unveiled an all new strain menu with some supremely good CBD at prices you will love. Check out freestonefarmscbd.com. You'll find it all there. That's freestonefarmscbd.com. And trust us, this menu is something you'll absolutely have to check out. They got strains like their insane tropical tasting Bayox that clocks in at a chart topping 24.1%, and Super CBD, which is a half Hindu Kush and 21%. The genetics these guys use just don't get any better. They grow all their premium hemp flower in the Garden State with all organic inputs and IPM. There's absolutely nothing synthetic from farm to jar. So after they harvest, they carefully preserve all the plant compounds with a perfect 3-month cure. Just one look or smell is enough to know it is CBD done right, and that this is a product that's great for anyone looking to take a natural approach to everything that we put in our bodies. On top of that, if you use the promo code ITB, you get 20% off at checkout. That's promo code ITB at checkout on freestonefarmscbd.com. All right. Let's talk wide receivers, possibly, a group that I think that probably has the most excitement going into the year for the offense, simply because of the addition of A.J. Brown. Now, the contract, Adam, I know that there was some kind of initial misconceptions about the contract. I'm going to let you handle exactly what that contract is.
Yeah, so it's a 4-year extension. Remember, he was on the final year of his rookie deal. So, and they put some, as always, they put 2 voidables on the back end to spread out the signing bonus.
Of course, because why not, right?
Yeah, well, look, Lane Johnson's his dummy years go through like 28 or 29. We'll talk about that later, but
we'll call him Lane Bobby Bonilla Johnson.
Right. Oh yeah. Look, the Cowboys did with Tyron Smith. They restructured his contract so many times, but they're done with that because he's older now. But with AJ Brown, they could certainly get out of the contract after 2 years. After 24, they can get out of it. But there's so much dead money. That's the part about it, because the dead money would be accelerated into the year that they would trade him or cut. They would never cut him, obviously, but trade him if they wanted to.
Right.
So it's basically a very strong 2-year deal. Then we'll see. I would suggest that just for the cap, if they were going to move on from him, it would be after the 25 season, not 24. It's just there's just too much dead money. In fact, it would be almost Carson Wentz like if they got rid of him after 24 in terms of dead money. So I would think, and look, the Titans, they were far apart because they clearly were concerned about his knee issues. Right. Eagles were not. They made it pretty clear that they did their homework, and they looked into what's happened to him. We know he 2 years ago had both knees scoped. So we'll see, but they're counting on AJ Brown to take this receiver group and that room to the next level. And he's so competitive, and he's a really good follow on Twitter. He's a pretty honest dude, and we know he's very, very close to Hurts. We'll see what their chemistry is. It's not like they worked a ton in the offseason. It's a matter of training camp, getting their timing down,
right?
And they look, they don't have a lot of time here. They're new to each other, and we know they're very, very close friends, but that doesn't mean that they'll be great together. They've got to work together, get their timing down, but. He's a amazing football player, unbelievably competitive. He's exactly what they need. You know how serious Devontae Smith is on the other side. So this is, I know people are starting to rate. It's funny, people have a lot of time on their hands. People are saying like this is a top 3. So I know a couple of people on social media said it's the top tandem in the league. That's a little strong for me. Yeah, it's good. It's on paper, very good.
There's some pretty good tandems out there. I mean, the Bengals are pretty good. The Chargers got a pretty darn good one too with Williams and Allen. I'll tell you an underrated one. I mean, I don't know if it's underrated, but it gets a lot of respect is DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. That's pretty good too.
Really good.
And then that Broncos one now looks really good with Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Patrick. And am I missing somebody? Is there somebody else?
Hamler's are 4th.
Hamler's a 4. Yeah, that's a pretty good set of weapons as well.
I know. No, yeah. but it's look on paper, folks. It's really good. Potentially to be great.
Thielen and Jefferson.
I'm sorry.
It's just Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen's pretty darn good.
Right.
Too. Yeah.
Right. And they have Osborne, who remember Rick Spielman come on our show, really likes him, and he did a good job last year. But so we know that Watkins right now will be the 3. The Pascal will cut into that role because Pascal's super physical, tough. We named him on the fantasy show. John Hansen called him Zach Rascal. I love that one because he's so annoying for fantasy because he'd score these touchdowns. It's impossible to project. He'd get him in the red zone because he's tough and physical, and he blocks. He blocks well. He's willing to stick his nose in there. And he also gets those tough physical possession catches. Just a good football player, but he's not. People were so pissed off the Eagles for signing him because, he had to start because they had injury issues. Paris Campbell got hurt, and T.Y. Hilton was dealing with an injury. But he's not a starter. He just had to start because they had nobody else. So you need to understand that when you criticize this decision. He's there because of the head coach. Loves him. They have a close relationship. He's a good guy to have for the room. This room is transformed itself. It was so mature a couple of years ago. We outlined this like 2 years ago with Fulgham and Quez Watkins and Hightower and how they had to grow up. And now you look at it. A.J. Brown, high character, competitive. Devontae Smith, high character, competitive. Pascal, tough, competitive. Watkins is growing up now. He's starting to mature. Jalen Reagor, who, by the way, I know it doesn't mean much. It's the offseason. Want to add super serious. I know his former teammate Gladney passed away from TCU, and I know that affected him, as it did a lot of his ex-teammates. But Reagor's had a very good offseason. He's not going to get cut, as we've said 100 times. I just wonder, though, and I know you've talked about this. I do wonder if he can get into rotation. Because right now he'd be their 5th receiver. The 5th receivers really don't play unless someone gets hurt.
Right.
So we'll see. But I'm just telling you, we have no idea if it'll mean anything because, again, 5th receivers don't play much. But he's definitely had a good offseason.
Well, he'll have an opportunity, Adam, in training camp too. I don't see him getting like immediately starting off with the first team. I think Brown and Devontae Smith, but he'll rotate probably in the first team with Quez, Zach, and himself. So I think he'll get some opportunities because you're right. And I mean, we haven't talked about it much because I don't think people really want to hear it or believe it. But the feedback is he's had a really well-focused, strong off-season program, came back in great spirits, and also just like the mental focus being there and doing everything that he's been asked to do. We've heard that he has. So again, but it doesn't really matter until you get out on the field and prove it. And I know people don't want to hear it until they see it. So I think he'll get some opportunities to prove himself. But as we've talked about before, it's also on this kind of coaching staff to figure out the best ways to use him. And as Jason Avant has said, and Quentin Michael agree, this interchangeable set of weaponry, you're going to see AJ Brown in the slot, I think, a little bit. Because he can function really well out of there. And then that would help put either Watkins or Reagor on the outside where their speed might just draw enough, defense to be able to let AJ Brown kind of flourish in the run after catch in the middle of the field where he flourishes. So it'll be really nice to see some of the combinations that they put out on the field.
Yeah, because Brown, I know that Sirianni hates saying X receiver and Z.
Right.
It's your 2 outsides. He goes, we just have 2 outside receivers.
Right.
And that's the way he's told people since he got the job. Let's not talk about X, Y, and Z and F. Let's talk about inside and outside receivers. Right. Which is fine. Okay. So as you said, Brown could play inside. You can move him on the outside. He's mostly an outside receiver, but he could play inside. Plus, who's going to handle him on the inside with the way he's built?
Exactly.
And Smith could play inside or outside. Watkins has been a vertical slot when they wanted to line up on the inside. And Pascal is more of a tough inside guy who could play on the outside if he needed to. Reagor could line up anywhere, but he needs to be more consistent. And Hightower, Avant gave us his stuff a couple years ago. We had heard similar stuff, how much he didn't love football and all that.
I'm shocked that he's back. I really am.
I know. I thought, believe me, I'm raising my hand. I didn't see that happening. But maybe, look, maybe he's maturing. Who knows? We haven't heard much on him. We did see him out when we were at practice the previous week. And Greg Ward is still there. He could only play in the slot. He won't be the punt returner. That's for sure. They don't want him to be.
I was gonna say unless he has to be, which is a really bad sign.
Has to be right. Good amendment. Yeah, they don't want him to be. So our understanding is it's Britton Covey or Rager, and Covey apparently was phenomenal in OTAs, catching it, slot, punt return.
Good.
He is. See, this is interesting. So when we look at projections, I got 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs. Although, of course, Carson Strong could push to be that, but right now I'd say 2. Where are you at here and how many receivers they could keep?
I think the big question is, do they wind up having the roster flexibility to be able to keep a wide receiver, like a 6 wide receiver, who's really only going to be a punt returner? Like if Britton Covey makes the team, he's making the team as a punt returner. He's not going to really see any time on the offense. I wouldn't think. And then, of course, what becomes of Jalen Rager? Does he stay on the team? Do they move him at the last minute, before the camp, before the season starts? There's a lot of questions to be asked about that. But I would think that they're going to keep 6 because out of that group has to come a punt returner.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would think that. Punt returner not named Greg Ward.
Covey, apparently, now they have so many guys who could they don't have any true slots other than Ward or Covey. But they have Brown who can do it. I don't see him lining up a lot inside, but he can do it. Smith, we know, can do it.
Right.
We know Quez can do it because he did it, but he's not really a true slot because he's more of a vertical slot. You need your true slot like a Vaughn.
Yeah, Pascal is probably a true slot, but he's not like a punt return.
Right. Well, guy. No, he is. Oh no, Covey was phenomenal.
No, Pascal. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Pascal.
Slot.
Oh yeah. He's a physical guy. He's not your Avant's your old school slot.
Yep.
Tough, smart, physical.
Yep.
Get open type of slot, but you're not going to line him up the outside.
Right.
Whereas now Covey's smaller. He's only 5'8". You and I saw him. He is small, but he's got great hands. He's a true slot, and he's actually, other than Ward, he is a true slot. I'm going to put Covey on the roster right now as the 6th. Brown, Smith, Watkins, Pascal is 4, as you said, and you're absolutely right. For Covey to make it, I would think Rager would have to be moved. If not, it's Rager's the 5th, Covey as the 6th, and then Ward would have to be off the team.
Yeah, you could probably bring Ward back on your practice squad. To be honest with you,
there you go.
I don't think he's going to be, land somewhere else.
And there's no guaranteed money. Ward's contract. He makes $35,000 if he's on the roster week 1.
Right.
And then they got Deion Kane, who Sirianni coached with the Colts, who was the kid who had the incredible offseason as a rookie. Then he blew his knee out. Has never been the same. He's all the way back now. Highly unlikely he makes the team, but you never say never because he's there. He's there because of Sirianni. I'm gonna put Covey on the team for now because he was amazing. I know there was no contact. We'll see if he could hold up physically because he's a small guy. But they got to get positive yardage. They can't have a guy with fair catches all the time.
Right.
Got to get positive as a punt returner.
We've seen Britton Covey on this team before in various different names. So Damaris Johnson, DeAndre.
Damaris Johnson. We've never mentioned him in 5 years. Unbelievable call out of you.
Who's the other one from more recently? DeAndre Carter.
Yeah, who they screwed up. They should have kept him.
I thought they did, and then after that, then they cut him.
No, they did, but what I'm saying is they should have brought him back.
Yeah,
because if did he score against the Eagles when he was with Washington or Houston?
I don't remember.
He might have done something, but I just know this: he's at least shown he could play in the league.
Yeah,
that was a mistake. They should have kept it. But Damaris Johnson, he's got great short area quickness. Was he a kick or punt returner?
Punt. He might have been both. Now that I think about it, but I think it was just punt because I think Sproles they had for kick
or punt
or punt. No,
I don't remember.
I'd have to go back and check.
Yeah. But no, Damaris Johnson. So we can never figure out, was it Damaris?
Damaris, right?
Right. Who boy, haven't heard his name in years. So it's funny how the low end guys, the bottom of the roster guys, we usually remember these guys. They usually come up once.
Yep.
First time for Damaris Johnson on Inside the Birds. I'll text his agent. I know his agent. Yeah, it's funny.
That's funny. All right. There's one more point I wanted to make. Oh, another underrated tandem. Not underrated, but another really good tandem. And you could play the would you rather have game all you want. But I mean, and I know some of this depends on the quarterback, but Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill is a pretty darn good one and two, isn't it?
If they had a better quarterback who actually throw the ball more than
that's what I'm
15
saying.
yards.
Yeah, but talent alone, that's pretty good.
Waddle did he have like 100 catches?
I believe he did. I mean, he was pretty damn good last year.
I know. This goes to show you when you're limited by your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Without looking, and I know this because I looked it up a couple weeks ago. I couldn't believe it. Okay, yeah, he had 104 catches. Take a guess what his yards per catch number was.
10.2.
You're close. 9.8. How embarrassing!
Man, that's bad.
Cosell said he was the most explosive receiver, ironically,
since Tyreek Hill.
Right, and they traded for him. And Greg said he was so explosive with Tua because Greg tries to be diplomatic when he criticizes Tua. Just goes by what the tape tells him.
Right.
And Tua is a check down point guard quarterback. Just see it, get it out of your hand.
Mm-hmm.
But because they're running the Shanahan system, Jimmy Garoppolo, his air yards aren't good, but run after the catch, like his per pass attempt is a little bit higher than you think because of the run after the catch.
Yep.
So
listen, I think this has a chance I think it's the perfect match between personnel and coach, at least. I don't know how good Tua will ever be, but I think that he's got the right offense now for his skill set, and then certainly great explosive players, not to mention they all still have Preston Williams, and the tight end is really good.
And the kid they got from Dallas, Cedric Wilson Jr.
Yeah. So
they really good.
Yeah, they should be all right. They should be all right as long as he's even a little bit improved. All right, let's move on to Eagles tight ends. Another sort of top heavy group here with Dallas Goedert, who's now he had the extension already, but this is the first year that he's entering of that 4-year extension.
Correct.
Okay.
So, and it's got your typical 2-year structure option, but so we've got a lot of surprises coming. I'm gonna give you guys one. We're gonna have Nick Polk, who's a friend of mine. He used to be the Falcons contract negotiator. I love talking to him. We had a long talk at the owners' meetings. He's so funny. His career is amazing. Nick was actually in. Was he a coach at Lock Haven? I think he was a coach at Lock. But he's great to run stuff by.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot wait to ask him what his thoughts were. The Eagles are the kings of the option bonuses. Because it's really funny. People, the contract guys love the Eagles the way they do contracts.
Mm-hmm.
But I've not talked to anyone recently about option bonuses. I'm very curious because it's going to be a learning experience. I love talking to football with him because he knows football too. He's one of the rare contract guys that really knows football.
Right.
And I'm very curious to see what he thinks of these option bonuses because what's the guy? He got promoted.
Bryce Johnson.
Thank you. Yeah, you know exactly where it's going. Bryce Johnson used to work for Over the Cap. He got promoted.
Right.
He's the one who does it. The agents tell me he's the one who started it. They like him personally, but they don't like doing these option bonuses. You really don't have a choice to do this. This is the way the Eagles do it. But anyway, I cannot wait to ask Nick about this, what he thinks. So, because he's got a very good sense of humor. I'll be interested to see how he responds.
Yeah, definitely. So what's Goddard's kind of cap number this year? It's pretty big now, right?
Yeah, let me get my file out.
And as you get that file out, I mean, there here's one position.
It's actually cheap. It's actually cheap.
Oh, is it? It's still cheap?
Yeah, because what they did is they backloaded the heck out of it.
Sure, in the last year of his rookie deal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So 18-19. Last year was okay. So this is so they gave him a veteran minimum for the first year of the extension.
Mm-hmm.
His cap number is only $2.6 million. They also because he's got the monster option bonus next year of $13 million, which is fully guaranteed.
Nice.
Then it jacks up the compensation is big for 23, but because they do it the way that they came up with this, the base salary is only a veteran minimum of 1.08 million in 23.
Right.
But he's got the fully guaranteed option bonus that jacks up his cap number, and then his salary goes up in a big way.
Mm-hmm.
In 24, his base salary is 14 million. Cap number, here we go, 19 million cap number for a tight end in 24.
In 2024, it's 19 million.
Yeah, his cap number just over 19.5 million. Yeah.
Oh boy, they better hope he stays healthy.
Well,
that's
no,
pretty
but here's the
seismic.
thing. It's interesting. The way they structured it,
Uh-huh.
there's no the fully guaranteed money expires after 23. This is why it's a
Oh, okay.
two-year structure.
Okay.
Eagles are the kings of two-year structures.
Yes.
Of where they could get it after 2 years. So we'll be talking about this, but I'll tell you, this is, as we go through these tight ends here, let's get back to the personnel part of it.
Mm-hmm.
One thing we did here, I don't know if we mentioned this, but I could certainly mention this now. Apparently his route running was really good in OTAs.
That's good.
So
he never really struck me as the, precise route runner. It was more
he way better
contact. Yeah.
Because Selleck was Mr. Head Bob, if you remember.
Yes.
Selleck would win by head bob, and Ertz is a terrific route runner. I know Zach asked him over the years. He said he learned a lot from Selleck.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where Goddard got his, but whether it's Ertz or not, but apparently his route running was really noticeable. Now we'll see with pads on and so forth. And he's a vertical guy, man. This guy could run.
Yeah, I thought one of the areas he needed to improve on though was beating man coverage. There were a couple of times when last year, more than a couple of times, when you'd see Jalen kind of get out of the pocket and then teams got into their plaster coverage, and he had trouble shaking that. I felt like the entire receiving group really struggled in that in general, including Devontae Smith at times. So if route running from Goddard improved, that should help him in those situations, and that will be interesting to see.
Yeah, and he's gifted. He had the two huge games. Hurts. The first one was Minshew against the Jets, and the second game was against Washington.
Mm-hmm.
I think at Washington, where seemingly was catching a ball like every 3 passes.
Yes.
So you hope he can build on that. I know he's had an injury history. He's had some bad drops, but the guy is gifted. He's exactly what you want in today's tight end. He could run and he can block. He was like not a great blocker, but he was a really good blocker immediately.
Right.
And so with Jack Stoll being the wide tight end, and Jack is actually more athletic than you think. When they go to 12, you could flex Goddard out. And I do wonder, because this has been the new deal in the NFL, we saw Darren Waller doing it, playing the X position. When this offense, the outside position. I wonder if they'll line him up on the outside like they did with Cosell. Said they used to do Ertz a little bit as the X. So I wonder
and on the backside of a 1x3, have him run kind of that dig or slant, just sort of like the Alshon Jeffrey routes as well. Yeah, they've done that with Ertz, and they can do it with Goddard too. Yeah. So Stoll will be the Y. Your guy Richard Rodgers is on the team. No guaranteed money, $1.12 million salary. They could play roster tango with him. Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to put Tyree Jackson. I just can't see him making it. I just can't, based on the ACL, and I don't know when he'll be ready.
Mm-hmm.
It's too bad. They really got that work right, that evaluation. We were at training camp. It was one of these situations of like, I don't know if he's ever going to make it long term, but there's something here with him. And then the back fracture and then the ACL, poor guy.
Right. That's tough.
I'm going to go with 3. So the third would obviously be Calcaterra, who's a super athletic kid.
Mm-hmm.
174,000 fully guaranteed signing. Doesn't keep him on the roster. I know he's only a 6th-round pick, but he gives you something different. He's real vertical. I know he gave up football for a bit. I think he might have had a minor injury in the offseason. I'd heard he had some minor injury, but I'm putting him on the roster as a 3rd tight end.
Okay, I would only agree with you if he rips it up. I think if he just has a decent to mediocre camp, then he gets waived, put on the practice squad along with Richard Rodgers, and then they do the tango and really only go into the season with 2 tight ends, which allows them to have maybe more at linebacker or some other position.
Okay.
Guard. This is a really Sua Opeta, we talk about where he struggles, right? And that he can only play one side, but he still has played football in the NFL. And I'm sure some teams would be, he's literally their lowest ranked guard. And I'm sure he could be a backup guard for a bunch of NFL teams. So that's a good situation when you consider you got Landon Dickerson, Isaac Seumalo, Jack Driscoll, Jack Anderson, Sua Opeta. That's admirable right there.
Yeah, look, they're in good. The only question is can Malo mentally handle playing right guard full time? Because it's one thing, the reports we got on him were good, that he looked good, but when everything flies, when you got to really play in that phone booth, when there's contact, and you're in pads, and the speed of it all, we have to see how he does. Driscoll's done it before. He's a good athlete. He's just not as strong as Isaac. We'll have to see how it works out. We know that Dickerson will be their left guard who could play center. So that's the other thing, is they're going to be fine at center, because we'll get to center later, but they have such versatility on the interior. But the problem, and you just mentioned it, the problem with Suopeta, and it's going to be hard for them to. I'm not going to put on my roster. I'm putting Jack Anderson over him because he could play center and guard.
I agree.
And I know, talking to the Bills about him last year, they were pissed at him.
Yeah.
About they wanted to keep him. They said, could you, because the Eagles, he was on the practice squad. They wanted to wait a couple weeks. And he's like, look, I got an opportunity here. And who knew I guess he played against Dallas and he got hurt.
Right.
It's fine.
Right.
But he's got the two position versatility. It hurts Suopeta only being able to play one guard spot and not being able to play center.
I agree with you. Listen, that's why I said it's a good problem for the Eagles. They're just really deep at this position. And not only deep, but guys with versatility, which Suopeta really doesn't have, but most of their other guys can play both sides, or at least two, if not both sides, they can also play two positions, center guard. So it's going to be difficult for him to make the team. The Landon Dickerson thing, Adam, as I just kind of think about it, because we were talking about AJ Brown and the knees, and we know Landon Dickerson with his injury history, the Eagles have really put a lot of confidence in their medical staff, which, they didn't really get right until I'd say, last year, the start of last year. That's a newer medical staff. It's been redone a couple of times, but the drafting of Landon Dickerson, the signing of AJ Brown, and then the drafting of Nakobe Dean. Now, granted, it's third round, but still a guy with, medical concerns there, and who's going to play as long as he's ready, healthy. That shows you that they're putting a lot of confidence now in their medical staff decisions. I feel like after they passed on DK Metcalf a couple of years ago, because he didn't clear medically, that to take Landon Dickerson means they must have confidence in what the feedback that they got from these guys, but also B, in their medical staff to make sure that these guys stay healthy.
Yep. Well, two things. We mentioned Ted Rath, who's the director of performance. He came up from the Rams. That's been huge.
Yep.
Is it Tom Hunkley?
Tom Hunkel, I believe it is.
Hunkley, yeah. It's
Hunkley. Okay.
Yeah. He's helped. He came up from Minnesota. He was with the Eagles previously, but the big one also is Arsh Denoda, who's the he sort of would oversee the injury situation and monitor it. And I guess he's good at consulting and all that. Whatever he's doing with them, it's really worked out well. That everyone together, they've got the injury thing out of control. I know, other than the Rams, it's rare to see a team with 2 straight years with minimal injury situation, but it could happen. You never know. The Rams have gotten it done, but you're right. Absolutely right. I'm glad you mentioned this. They've got it under control. And Dickerson, the amazing thing about Dickerson is I'm very surprised he played as well as he did, because I remember we asked Greg when his tape study, Cosell, and Greg said early on he looked a little stiff coming back from the injury. He didn't look quite all the way back.
I agree. It looked like he was limping at times too. You remember we would talk about.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Limp. Oh,
yeah.
In training camp or during the games?
No, like early when he started starting games, I think against San Francisco, as early as that game, week 2, week 3. It just felt like he was favoring, or just maybe he was beat up in the games, because he's just getting in there. But he did, he looked to me like he was favoring.
Okay. So he as the season went on, he really played well. But my only problem is 3 out of the 4 guards who were projected to make it. Okay, Dickerson, major injury history with knees. We know this. Malo, major injury history.
Yep.
Driscoll, major injury history.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
That does. Now I know Jack Anderson's new. Let me throw this back at you. Do they need to add another veteran?
I don't think so.
So
you got a couple of we'll get into tackles and talk. Okay. LaRaven Clark is a guy who can play
guard. True. That was where I was actually going to go. Is he could be that flex,
right?
because he's done it, though he's so long. The arms are like 35 inches.
Yeah.
You'd
Cam
rather
Jurgens might be able to be a guard.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Him
They're trying him. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't think so.
I agree with you. I agree with you.
At some, if you suffer 4 injuries, no matter what,
No,
at one position, you're going to be, SOL anyway. So
no, I get it. No, but anyway, so those are the guards. So I'm going to put only 4. I'm not going to, now again, this is an early projection. We're not reporting anything here. We're just looking, we're going through a deep dive in middle of, well, actually it's the 20th of June, 3rd week of June here. There's still 4 weeks away, 5 weeks away technically from training camp. So let's not run with anything here, but we're just giving you an early idea. I just can't see my opinion would be, based on what I know about Dickerson, Samalo, Driscoll, and what we know about all 4 and Anderson, all 4 of them. I just feel like you can't keep everybody.
Right.
At some point, Suopeta's got to show you more that he deserves to make it. Now, could he make it over Jack Anderson? Sure, but I think Anderson makes it because of the versatility.
I would agree with you. I get a feeling, I think everything you said was really well put and logical. And yet I still get the feeling by going into the year, it's going to be 3. I don't know. Like you mentioned,
not Anderson.
Some of these guys got high price tags, and some of these, like you're going to have a competition there at right guard. I don't know. So it's not that it might be Anderson. I don't know. Because you have Jurgens and Clark who can also play guard as well, it just makes me think that they're not going to keep 4 guards and also Clark and Jurgens. So maybe it's Clark who's odd man. I don't know, but I just get the feeling that it looks good at 4. I think you're making a lot of sense. Wouldn't surprise me if it wound up being 3 though, and we'll see if maybe there's a move made.
Before we get to tackle, the only way I could see that not happening, if Isaac Samalo does not win the right guard job,
you don't keep him as a high price backup. That's correct. No, you don't keep him as a $5 million backup. No,
here's your choices. Isaac, you lost a job. We can't justify paying you $5 million. Here's $2.5 million.
Right.
Or we go $2.5 million upside to 5. We'll give you upside if you wind up starting X amount of games.
And he's going to say, thank you, but just release me. I'll probably find a job in 2 seconds and make $5 million.
Right. And he's not subject to waivers. His contract would be terminated. So he could sign anyway, or they would obviously trade him.
Right. So that's probably what they would look to do.
Right. Yeah. He's a good player. He just, he could play right guard or left guard. Remember, center was really what they thought that he might be playing. He was yet another guy who's supposed to replace Kelsey.
Right.
Anyway.
All right. Before we go on to finish off the offensive line, I want to tell everybody about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you're checking them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. We'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you head out there to Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get the very best deal. All right. Speaking of a great deal, Adam, Jordan Mailata's contract, right? You want to talk about great deals for the team?
Yeah, this is one where they saw him go through the back problems. He didn't play his first 2 years. They said, you know what? We've seen enough. They saw him 2 years ago when he became a starter. They saw enough. They said, you know, we're going to do this early. We're gonna extend him before his last year is done. And if he had the requisite option bonuses, but the $16 million a year is actually a bargain. But if you're Jordan Mailata, I don't see like if Jordan Mailata, if I'm him, I'm like, where do I sign? Because if you look at the injury history, he's new to football. I get that. We're going to have a couple personnel guys on who used to work in the league. I'm working on someone big, which I just saw the guy. So hint, he's from the area. And I wonder where this guy sees Jordan Mailata, the guy's familiar with Eagles personnel, because he's come so far so quick in terms of going from a guy that has learned to play football. Now he's one of the easily a top 10 left tackle, if not top 5.
Mm-hmm.
And his money, again, the money starts becoming really rich in year 3 of the extension, when his cap number goes from just over 7 million in 23 to over 20 million in 24.
And I tell you, over 20 million, if it's around 20, 21 million, if he's a Pro Bowl or an All Pro tackle, that's still a bargain for the Eagles. In fact, that contract's probably getting ripped up if he makes All Pro.
Oh yeah, and he's got Pro Bowl incentives or escalators in there, but
yeah,
it gets to be. You're absolutely right. Like his salary at 14.5 million and cap number 20.8 million.
Mm-hmm.
It's palatable considering he's looking like he's going to be elite or very close to it.
Yep.
Now I know that it's blasphemous to say he could be better than Trey Thomas or Jason Peters, but this kid is coming a long way. I cannot wait till we get Trey on for him to talk about Mailata's progress.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's only signed through 25. It was a smart deal. He actually, because I know talking to both sides on it, they wanted to be fair to him because he was doing it early, of not doing one of these 6-year extensions.
Right.
Because it actually voids after 25.
Okay.
You make a great point, because if he plays great, if I'm Mailata or his agent, I'm going to want to get it redone, because if he becomes one of the top 3 left tackles in the league and keeps makes Pro Bowls, because I don't think the fans have any outside the Philadelphia market have any idea how good this kid is.
Yeah, no, he's well. Listen, I don't know either. I mean, I want, like I've said, he clearly can run block. He clearly is understanding how to use his massive body to his advantage. They're going to throw the ball more this year. Want to see how he does moving backwards and facing those elite defensive ends. There were times last year that they struggled in pass blocking against hands. Really good, hands and technique and things like that. So they're going to be doing it more. So that's why I'm saying the opportunity will be there for him to show that that's a better part of his game, and then really elevate himself into an elite if he's up to that challenge, if he can do that. Yeah. So that's why, it'll be a really fascinating year for him. On the other side, Lane, we know what Lane is. I mean, he's he's one of the best right tackles in the league if he's not the best. So they're pretty good at that spot for a couple of years now.
Yeah, he's still elite. He's lost nothing as we understand it. You do worry about the injury history. We know about his personal issue, which he's gotten under control, and good for him. We're rooting for him.
Yep.
You worry about the injury history of guys wearing down, but he's in such phenomenal shape. He takes his body so seriously. We know about the stuff that he had earlier in his career,
right?
What he went through off the field, but he's got himself together and he's still elite. He's just an amazing football player. It's just so funny how things work out, because no one thought he'd play right tackle when he was drafted. Well, they knew he had to initially because of Peters, but they thought he'd just replace. A couple of years later, they'll just replace Peters. He'll move to left tackle. That's not what happened.
Right.
They kept it. It just no one thought. And let's not forget, Lane Johnson was a quarterback at one point, a tight end,
quarterback, tight end, and tackle. Yeah, that's right.
I met him at the Senior Bowl. I knew literally nothing about him. And his agent came up to me. He goes, I got to show you something. I'm like, okay. He showed me his basketball stuff. I'm like, okay. He goes, did you know he played quarterback? I'm like, where? In high school? He goes, no, in junior college. I'm like, get out of here.
What was the name of it? It's Ferris or something like that. I think it begins with an F.
I don't know. Ferris State? No. Yeah, I know. Like actually, it's funny. I know some guys who played Ferris State, but I don't know. But he is amazing. And then Dillard. Yeah. So Lane signed through 25, and he's got all the dummy years going for 28. Dillard is, remember, they declined his 5th-year option. He's in the final year of his rookie deal, $2.182 million, fully guaranteed. So they're not going to cut him. No chance at that. They love having him as a backup left tackle. It's a shame he won't play right tackle, because, boy, it would have such value in a trade. To me, they'd be able to get a 2nd-round pick if he could play right. Sorry, can't.
Well, let's see. I mean, they're doing some different things with him, so maybe he will be more amenable to it.
We had heard he was going. In fact, now you bring this up, I need to check back and see if he got any snaps inside, because they wanted to cross train him a little bit. We'll see. We'll find out. But he's just not. I don't think he feels. Remember how uncomfortable? What was the language he used? Like,
it was like trying to with your left hand.
Right,
right-handed.
Got it. Have you ever tried that?
Writing with my left hand? No.
Yeah, it's really hard. Yeah, I've tried it. It's tough,
See,
man.
no purpose in that.
Not natural, because he said it
Not
was
trying to
natural,
embarrass myself. Right.
What's that?
So there's no purpose of doing that. I'm not
No,
trying
there's
to.
none. Absolutely none, unless you hurt your hand. But
Right.
and then LaRaven Clarkson, the final year of his 2-year deal, $1.035 million base salary. There's no guarantees in it.
Yeah.
And
So he could be cut and put on the practice squad. Yeah.
Right. Which you would work it out with the agent if they're going to cut him to make sure he would sign with a practice squad. He's not subject to waivers.
Right.
So we'll see. Right now, I have him on. I have 4 guards and 4 tackles. What are you seeing?
Well, I think you're right in the 8 range. Now, whether it's 3 and 5, well, it wouldn't be 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. It could be. I think it's either 7 or 8. I would agree with you on that. It's either 7. If it's, I could see it being 7 because of the versatility of a lot of guys. So whether it's 4 guards and then 3 tackles, I could see that happening, and LaRaven going to the practice squad. 1, 2, 3, yeah, and then Sua just not making it. That's possible.
Okay.
But
and that practice squad gives you such flexibility to play roster tango.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to keep 10 offensive linemen on the 53 this year.
I heard you on the Mike Gill show. I think one of the show. Yeah, I think it was Mike Gill show. You were talking about. In fact, you did say you thought they would only keep 9, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I said there's a chance. Yeah, I said 9 probably. Right.
Okay. And then let's go to center, which is obvious. Kelsey. On I know some fans were super pissed off. I don't know why. A couple people when he signed for 1 year, they wanted him back, but fans were like, how could you pay him $14 million? It's real money. It's $14.25 million fully guaranteed.
How could you not? I mean, really?
No, I know, but they're like, well, he's 33, 34. How are you making the highest paid center at that age? But as you just said, he's still elite. He's arguably the best center at his age in the National Football League. Alex Mack retired. So how could you say he's not? I don't really respond to this stuff on Twitter, but we could answer it here. He had leverage. Look, he wouldn't do this because we know we've heard he doesn't want to move. He who knows, he might work for the team when he's done. He loves being here, loves being an Eagle and all that. Everybody loves him. Boy, by the way, he did a little spot for the World Cup, I guess. So they're going to have some.
Oh, nice.
26 or something. They're going to have some of it here, whatever.
Yeah.
I did a great ad for it, but we really got into it. But you got to do it. They did. The Eagles, I was saying it earlier in passing. I'll say this much about the Eagles. They do right by their players.
Yeah.
Did they have to do this? Could they try to squeeze them a little bit? Yeah. But they paid him because if you're playing at elite level, don't try to screw your player over. Don't nickel and dime a guy.
Right.
And they didn't. And they did him right.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, doesn't matter the age. He's still one of the best. Like Tom Brady is still one of the best, if not the best quarterback in the NFL. He's not taking less money just because he's 45.
Get out.
I mean, you don't like nickel and dime him because he's 42.
He's great.
He's that good.
Jason turns 35 in November.
Right.
And he was available in 16 when Roseman came back. I just remember teams were telling me he was available. They didn't, and I don't even know if they entertained anything. I just know teams were asking and Eagles were listening. They obviously never wound up trading him. And remember, Jason said that in his speech, but in that to the players, he talked, they were trying to trade me. And, it's just, it's, and then, by the way, before we move on to Juergens, they put the poison pill in again. We had to look at the contract when it was done, and they did the language. So he could not come back on the second year of the dummy. There's dummy money in the second. He can't do it. They just can't do it. So they would have to redo it again. I've learned my lesson with this thing. Do not rule out him coming back. It's all how he feels. And if he's playing elite, I know this will never happen. If they would do a series of 1-year deals. If he's elite again, sorry, Cam Juergens, you're gonna have to wait.
Yeah, then all of a sudden you're looking at Cam Juergens and saying, well, what do I do with my second round
guard?
Yeah, but if you've got, well, that's true. Maybe there's only 1 more year of Sayamalu if he beats out Driscoll, or if Driscoll could play. I don't know. That's a conversation for this time next year. But yeah.
By the way, yeah, Isaac's on last year of his deal. So look, we're just pushing this out a little bit.
Yep.
What could potentially happen, because the Kelsey thing has been so surprising. No, both sides thought I know, talking to people who are involved in these deals, like they thought, okay, well, we're just going to do a 1-year deal because Jason's going to retire. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
Said the same thing last year. Nope. He said, it's very real clear. If I feel right, I want to come back. And here we are.
Wow. Amazing. All right. That finishes off the offense. We'll just go to real quick on an offensive type position, punt returner, kick returner. We talked about Britton Covey and Jalen Reagor as far as punt return possibilities. Now we haven't mentioned this kid yet. The hurdles star from he went to Oregon, right? Devin Allen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he did sign a 3-year. Well, that's a futures deal, right? He signed a futures deal, or he signed a 3-year deal?
No, it's a 3 years deal, okay. 3-year deal with 40,000 guaranteed at signing. He's going to have to show he could play, because he hasn't played meaningful football in 6 years. He's older. Just because you could run doesn't make you a football player. I know the way I understood it is his tape. Now, again, it's so long ago. He did some good things as a football player, but he had so many knee injuries.
Mm-hmm.
But he's all the way back physically. I know he's in his late 20s now, but he's going to have to earn it. He will not make the team unless he shows he could. This will not be a charity case like the kid they drafted, the running back in 17 from San Diego State.
Pumphrey, yeah,
right. Who they actually drafted, who didn't deserve to be on the team because he looked bad, and that they just clearly missed on that one.
Right.
Allen will not be on the team unless he earns it. Now, who could be the other kickoff returners? Scott can do it.
Yes, Boston
Gainwell
Scott can do it. Yep.
Who else?
Yeah, no, that's probably your primary guys.
Reagor, yeah,
Jalen Reagor could also handle it too. So they've got guys. I guarantee you this Devin Allen kid is going to take up at least 2 and maybe 3 full days on sports talk radio in the summer, because he's going to do some amazing things with that speed. And he's going to become that guy that the fans, he's got to make the team. He's going to be awesome. He's going to be awesome.
Henry Josie.
The Henry Josie types.
In your time covering this team, who are the biggest hype machines of
Lorenzo Booker? Lorenzo Booker was the first.
Oh, the second, but he was wait. Oh, they got him from
Minnesota.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, went to Florida State. They thought it'd be perfect in the West Coast offense. He had great runs in training camp. So it was him. Henry Josie was one. There have been a couple of wide receivers. From Paul Turner to Rasheed Bailey to Greg Salas.
You and I saw Rasheed. He's my guy. We saw him, and we actually talked about that. Maybe we should get Rasheed on. Should we get Rasheed? He's in the CFL, tearing it up at the CFL. But Rasheed told me the whole story about really what happened, how they really screwed him over. Chip Kelly did. He was so good, and they told him to stay close and don't go anywhere, and they wound up not bringing him back, which is not cool.
Yeah, definitely. So but it'll be fun to watch, and we'll see if he's the real deal or if he's just there to see what he's got. Another Jeremy Bloom type, but no, a totally different situation.
What was Bloom's situation though? He was a skier, right?
Yes, he was a skier. And by the time he was done fulfilling his Olympic skiing commitments, when he came to camp, Howie Roseman openly talked about this like years later, is that his ankles from being, positioned inside skis, which is stationary for so long, where you're really just doing subtle movements instead of cutting and stuff. He said that the ankles just had no flexion anymore. They were not, he was not the wide receiver / returner that he was in college, because his ankles didn't have the flexion and didn't allow he was just a straight line runner, and anybody in the NFL can catch a straight line runner at any time. So he wasn't that guy.
And with Allen, they only gave him 40,000 guaranteed. It's not a big deal if they
like Bloom was like a 4th round pick, if I'm not, or a 5th round pick.
Fifth. That's that. Well, look, the draft is a learning experience. The hype on him was ridiculous. I don't know if you remember. I remember. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And I'm like, God, the guy's just a 5th round pick. Let's take it easy.
Yeah.
Like Hank Baskett. I'll say this about Hank Baskett. Remember Billy McMullen? Were they traded for each other?
I think so. Yeah. Yep.
Both did well here,
mm-hmm.
but the hype on Hank Baskett was so now he was great. I'll just say that he was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, training camp is the off season AA baseball.
Right.
I call it training camp AAA.
Yep.
It doesn't guarantee you anything. It's great. No. They don't hit very much, and then he just never made it. Just never made it.
Right. All right, that closes it out. Next episode, we'll do the defense and give you the soup to nuts on that as well. So thanks, everybody, for listening. I want to thank our new producer, Tyler Strasser, doing a great job. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.